Если после него придешь ко мне, потом мы идем в магазин, а потом ко мне.
Do you know the real reason why the Jaws ride closed? In 2010, after the park closed, the ride was having its routine check by an engineer. In order to do it, the engineers had to actually go into the water to check the shark. So when Jason Foyer went to inspect the shark's hydraulics, he was in for a surprise. As he was inspecting the shark, he heard some odd clanky noises, which are usually normal, but he then began to notice the shark was slowly moving its head in his direction. It then opened its teeth and lunged at him. In the morning, managers noticed that Jason forgot to clock out of work, but also that he didn't show up the next day. When they tried calling him, he never responded. That's when a security guard found Jason in the water. For some odd reason, the shark's teeth were actually sharp. A year later, when the Wizarding World expansion began, the Jaws ride would close without being relocated.
When she posts this picture. Now I know that you guys can see this picture, but I feel this very crazy impulse to just kind of recreate the picture for you guys. So it's of this woman who has this very blurred, just overexposed, super pale face, right? And she has like this very creepy, just everything about her is creepy. But the biggest, creepiest part, in my opinion, right, is the fact that it looks like she cannot close her eyes. It looks like she has no eyelids. So it just looks kind of like this. And the creepiest part is, it doesn't look like she's opening it because she looked around and she saw a flash and she's shocked, or her eyes are open because she's shocked about something or surprised. It just looks like there's no emotion in her eyes, but she can't close them.
Did you know that this movie was allegedly inspired by a disturbing true crime case? The Wu family in Kaohsiung, Taiwan believed they were possessed by religious deities. There are very few sources that are translated into English, so I'm not sure of the full details of the story. But allegedly in 2005, the family believed they were cursed and began accusing each other of being possessed by various demons. To get rid of these demons, they stopped eating, began beating each other, burned their skin with incense, and force-fed each other feces. And within a month, their 28-year-old daughter died from exhaustion and multiple organ failure. The family was convinced that it wasn't their daughter who was dying, but the demon who possessed her, so they didn't get her medical help. They were all sent for psychiatric evaluation and diagnosed with shared delusional disorder and hysteria. And the remaining 5 members of the family were indicted on reckless endangerment. If you guys saw this movie, let me know what you thought.
This is the most dangerous prisoner in the world, and you'll never believe why. A little girl named Shiloh was on her phone at night when she got a call from a mysterious number. And on that night, she didn't pick up the phone because her parents weren't home, and she didn't want to talk to any strangers. Thinking it might be one of her friends from school or her teacher, she picked up the phone. And when she picked up the phone, she heard a little girl's voice. The little girl told Shiloh to come to the park at night alone, and told her that she would play with her. Not knowing better, Shiloh decided to leave her house and walk to the park. The time was now 1 a.m. as Shiloh slowly started walking at night to the park. No one was around except her, and it was eerily quiet. Shiloh quickly realized that there was no one around her, so she freaked out and called the number back again. But this time, no one picked up. She was so scared she just wanted to see someone, so she decided to run to the park to see her friend that called. And that's when Shiloh's heart started beating really fast, because she heard a small car parked up behind her. And what happens next will absolutely shock you. If you want to know what happens, like and follow for part 2.
Now what I'm about to show y'all is so disturbing that some of the people watching this right now is not going to be able to handle to see this. I warned you. Now this little girl named Lisa, she saw her parents argue, but she seen her father doing something strange to her mom. So she hurry up and she calls 911.
Standing emergency. Standing emergency. My mom and Daddy are having a fight. Is she getting hurt? Stop it!
And yes, that strange thing that she saw, what was happening to her mom, was the father was abusing the mom. Now Lisa basically been seeing this all her life. But watch the reasons she say why.
Send the police, please.
Okay, we're gonna be there. We're taking your Let me talk to you. Where's your mom?
What?
What's going on?
They're having some fighting because this is bingo forever and ever. In the moonlight, my honey, I know is a dog.
Just because I'm mean, here's that photo once again. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. This is the unknown man known as Mr. Cruel. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, he apparently had committed several CAs and allegedly unalived 13-year-old Carmen Chan. Police have described Mr. Cruel to be a very intelligent man, as he has strategically planned each of his attacks to ensure that he would not get caught. Each time he kidnapped somebody, he would be very non-rushed and would speak with a soft voice. He even told a 14-year-old girl, quote, "My liberty, my freedom is more important than your life." I hate to say it, but it does appear he is still a free man and living in Australia. However, his last crime was committed on April 13th, 1991. Hopefully this man will be caught.
My daughter gave birth to my 7 children. My name is Joseph Fritz, and this is my terrible story. I built a secret basement under my house in Austria. There, I locked up my own daughter Elizabeth for 24 long years. I was a manipulative, domineering father. No one could have guessed what was going on in that basement. I led a double life. A normal husband and father on the top floor and a monster in the secret basement. During the years I spent with that basement, I committed atrocities against my own daughter. Elizabeth had 7 children. 4 of them grew up with her in that secret basement, while the other 3 lived upstairs with my wife and me, unaware of the truth. But in 2008, everything changed. One of the girls was born in the basement because Austin became seriously ill. I had to take her to the hospital, but I didn't know that would be the beginning of my downfall. The doctors asked questions. The police and media began to investigate. My terrible secret was revealed. The basement in which I had locked my daughter and children was discovered. In 2009, I was sentenced to life imprisonment. I'm now behind bars where I can't do anything to anyone. My story has shocked the world, and many people wonder how such a crime could go unnoticed for so long.
If I didn't know this was a true crime case, I would think it was a disturbing horror film. On the morning of the 7th of October 2022, a barefoot woman was running around Excelsior Springs, Missouri, bashing on people's doors. Witnesses describe her looking like she came straight from a horror film and she was calling for help. She'd been beaten, held captive, and SA'd for weeks. The woman was a shocking sight. She was covered in injuries and was wearing a bin bag. Disturbingly, she was gasping for breath as she had a very tight metal collar locked round her neck. It was a nurse who opened the door to her and let her come in. The nurse started to call police, and at this point the woman panicked. She warned her that the captor would kill her and claimed that he had killed her 2 friends. When police got there, the woman explained that a man called Timothy had captured her the month prior. He'd been holding her hostage this whole time. She said he'd been keeping her locked in the basement and had been SAing her. Disturbingly, she told police that he actually had a young son who lived at the house with him. When Timothy had taken his young son to school the one day, she used it as her opportunity to escape. Police made their way to the home of 39-year-old Timothy Haslett Jr. and found the property did in fact have a basement like the woman described. Timothy was arrested and is facing 9 charges, including first-degree kidnapping. He's being held on a $3 million bond and faces 5 life sentences. Before his arrest, police were actually called to his address 3 times. Twice they were asked to do welfare checks, and this was from an employer and also family members. Police have searched his home with cadaver dogs and they haven't yet released what they know.
This is a game show that aired in Peru, right? And it's called The Value of Truth. And the concept of the show was pretty simple to follow. Contestants will be asked a series of questions while being connected to a polygraph test. The more questions that they answer truthfully, they got money. And there's a twist to it too. The contestants will have to be next to loved ones. Your
Damn,
questions.
and they would probably ask questions about
Around the loved ones, bro. And then in 2012, when the first episode aired, a 19-year-old girl who starred in it, and her name was Ruth Talia Sayas. She's with her mom, dad, and her boyfriend. The first couple questions, they're pretty easy to answer. She answers them truthfully, and then as the episode keeps going, they get even worse. Like, they ask her,
¿Estás con tu enamorado hasta que llegue alguien mejor?
first like question that f***ed it up, right?
Sí.
¿Trabajas en un nightclub?
Sí.
¿Has aceptado dinero a cambio de tener relaciones sexuales?
they ask her another question and she refuses to answer. She basically ends the game there. And then after the show aired, it was a big hit, got high ratings and stuff. Ruth, she became like a low-key, like a little celebrity in Peru and stuff like that. She was on many interviews on the news, interviewed by other television programs and stuff. And then out of nowhere, she just disappears, bro. 10 days of her friends and family are out looking for her. And then they eventually find her body in the vacant lot, buried and stuff. The main suspect was the boyfriend. And only cause she was on...
This Doctor Strange star is a convicted pedophile. So let's talk about this. Meet Zara Fithian, I think that's how you say her name. She is a martial artist who's been in a lot of movies, and she's well known in Hollywood for her ability to fight. I'm assuming that's one of the reasons why she was cast in the 2016 film Doctor Strange to star alongside Benedict Cumberbatch. And if you've seen the movie, you might recognize her. She played a sorceress in the film. But it's always the case with somebody that looks the most normal from the outside that there's something dark and twisted going on internally. And that definitely is what happened here with Zara. Just last year in 2022, Zara and her husband, along with 3 other men, were convicted of essaying a child repeatedly over a period of 3 years. In total, there were 14 sex offenses that she was convicted of. And the child in question that she was convicted of assaulting was only 13 years old. She was a 13-year-old girl. So the young girl, who's now an adult, told the court that between 2005 and 2008, she was abused about 20 times by the couple and these men, and that sometimes these encounters were videotaped and kept for private pleasure, if you know what I mean. They were producing CP with this girl. So the judge was actually pretty harsh with the couple and all of the people involved in this case, and stated that they were very, very disappointed that instead of taking any sort of accountability for their actions, they tried to lie their way out of this. But there was a lot of evidence in this case, a lot of stuff that I can't talk about here on TikTok. And yeah, this is such a disturbing story, and it makes me wonder how many other actors, actresses, people involved in filmmaking have done these things that we just don't know about yet. This 18-year-old killed a mother and her daughter while street racing. So this is Cameron Herron. You probably know his story by now. In 2018, he was just a normal 18-year-old kid. At the time of the accident, Cameron was producing content for YouTube, was going to school, and on the day of the crash, he decided that he and his brother Tristan were going to race. So Cameron had a lifelong love of cars, and so he and his brother would always race, and he and his friends would race. But on that day, he reached a speed of 162 miles an hour in his car. And that's when he careened into Jessica and Lilia, a mother and daughter who were crossing the street. Jessica was actually wheeling her daughter across the street when Cameron struck them both with his vehicle. So tragically, on that day, David, Jessica's husband and Lilia's father, was driving home from work when he passed by a huge accident. He said to himself, wow, that must have been a bad accident. He went home, but when he got home, he noticed that his wife and daughter weren't there. So he got back in his vehicle, went out searching for them, and when he returned and passed by the scene of that accident, he noticed the stroller that was sitting on the side of the road. He recognized that that stroller belonged to his family. They owned one just like that. And shortly afterwards, he discovered that the victims of that horrific crash were his own wife and daughter, who were now dead. So Cameron was obviously arrested. He was eventually sentenced to 24 years in prison. And shockingly, afterwards, people have made thirst accounts dedicated to Cameron. The actual hashtag Cameron Herron on TikTok itself has billions of views. And people have been idolizing this guy. His own parents have said in news articles that they get calls at all times of the day to their home from people from countries all over the world, specifically a lot of people from the Middle East, calling to see how their son is doing. But yeah, this is just a tragic story all around. David lost his wife and daughter, his entire family, due to one idiot's reckless decision to go 162 miles an hour down a normal road. And in prison, Cameron Herron is going to be there for a very long time. So his entire adult life is pretty much gone, vanished before he could even be, the legal age to drink an alcoholic drink.
After accidentally paragliding into a storm cloud, this woman was turned into an ice cube and was sent to heights higher than Mount Everest, all while she was unconscious. This is Ava Wisniewska, and she was on her way to becoming the best paraglider in the world. And in 2007, she was in Australia competing in a cross-country event called the XC Open. The only problem was there was supposed to be a thunderstorm that day. But in paragliding, if you get caught in a thunderstorm, that could be deadly. Ava and her team had decided they would take off later in the day, but that was a risky move because the storm cloud would be forming around that time. But she was definitely underestimating this storm. How paragliders get speed and height during their flight is they ride what's called thermals, which are like pockets of hot air in the sky. They also look for big clouds to ride because the bigger the cloud, the higher and faster you go. So Ava takes off and everything's fine, but not long after that, this gigantic storm cloud is forming pretty quickly in front of her. And she definitely knew it was a risky move to keep going, but she also knew that if she could make it past it fast enough, she would be flying in clear skies. But unfortunately, Ava wasn't fast enough, and right as she got to this cloud, it had turned into a gigantic cumulonimbus storm cell, which is like a massive thunderstorm. And it had literally sucked her up into the cloud. So she was now in the center of a pitch black thunderstorm cloud and was seeing lightning strikes and hail all around her, and that was it. She was completely out of control, and before long, she was sucked up to 6,900 feet, which is just under what mountaineers call the death zone. And that's when Ava passed out. Once Ava was unconscious, she was sucked up even higher until she was spit out of the top of the storm cloud. And that put her at just about 10,000 meters up, which is higher than Mount Everest and where planes fly. And it was like negative 64 degrees up there or something like that, like something crazy. And Ava's unconscious body stayed up there frozen and flying for 45 minutes. But after nearly an hour, the wing of her paraglider collapsed in on itself and she was sent hurtling to the ground. Miraculously, Ava's wing reopened before she hit the ground, which woke her up, the jolt did, and she was able to land safely on the ground. This felt like an appropriate photo because I can't explain that. And at first she had no idea that she was sent basically to the stratosphere because she was unconscious for it, but her equipment recorded her flight path. There it is. That high up she should have lasted more like seconds rather than 45 minutes, but I guess because she was unconscious and frozen, she survived. Ava's story is so unbelievable, but there are truly so many more details, so if you want to hear the full thing and hear a bunch of other stories just like hers, check out my podcast called Not Today.
Yes, they're here.
Where's the knife at? Come here.
I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. It's something not. I'm so sorry. You better pretty good. I am fine, Mom. I'm so sorry.
It was January of 2023 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when police responded to the disturbing scene you just witnessed. Paramedics had already arrived and were tending to a 9-year-old boy with stab wounds to his chest. While all was initially chaos, screaming, and desperation, the victim's 12-year-old sister cleared things up for police with a shocking confession. She was responsible for her brother's injuries. While waiting to learn the fate of the innocent young victim, the police would spend the rest of the night trying to make sense of such an incomprehensible situation. Please note that due to the ages of both victim and suspect, names have been redacted to protect their privacy.
Where's the knife?
Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry. You better pretty good. I am fine, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
How old are you? Where's the knife?
I was upstairs in my room and I threw it out the window and it's behind the apartment right here.
You threw it where?
I threw it out my window upstairs.
Right
not
up here?
right there. It's the room. It's the other room. It's right behind the apartment. This apartment right here.
So where would the knife be? On that side?
Right behind. Yeah. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. It's something not. I'm
Hey,
so sorry.
what's your mom's name? What's your mom's name?
I gotta go with him. I'm so sorry. I don't know what the happened. I don't know what happened.
The girl appears to be in a legitimate state of panic, making no effort to hide anything, and she's very compliant with the officers.
I don't know what happened.
Come over here so we're out of the paramedics' way.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry.
Hey, what's your name? A seat for me. Sit crisscross on the grass, okay?
Just sit there for a second. You don't have the knife on you, right?
No, I swear I don't. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I don't. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
Is there anybody else inside the house?
No, it's just me, my mom, and my brother. He's dying.
Hey, how would I get to the knife? Is there the back side?
I can show you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I really didn't want things to happen like this. This sucks. I'm so sorry. I'm probably gonna go to jail. I'm gonna live the rest of my life in prison.
That's it right there?
Yes.
Okay.
The girl takes police around back of the apartment building and shows them the knife, which is exactly where she said it would be. While one officer collects it as evidence, another takes a moment amidst the chaos to ensure that the suspect is unharmed.
I don't know what the I did.
Stick your hands out like this for me. Do you have any cuts on you?
I do.
Where at?
On my arm.
Which arm?
Both of them. My left one is just small cuts. Actually, I meant my right arm. It just has the small cuts, and then my left one has. I'm sorry. I don't know what the did.
Mom, and then fire and IMSA was. Hey, real quick, I'm gonna take you out of handcuffs and I'm gonna take your hoodie off, okay? That way we can see the cut that you have. Take your hood off for me. Is it just those? Those look old. Are they old?
This
Oh,
one
those.
and this
Yeah,
one,
those are a little.
This one, those are old with like.
Do you have any
This
new?
one that's brand new. This was brand
That's
new.
from today?
Yes. And it's so.
With the same knife?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a car.
Knife over here.
Stay there. I'll look at. Okay.
What's happening to her? What's gonna happen with her? At the hospital.
I don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
You go to the hospital. We'll
Yeah.
talk to you, okay? Go ahead.
Just be calm, okay? I don't know what happened tonight.
I'm so sorry.
We'll figure it out. I have to go be with your brother, make sure he's okay.
I don't know what the I did. I'm so sorry. I love